Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In this session, we are going to discuss how to identify mubtada and khabar in a nominal sentence if that sentence contains one or more naat. Okay, let's note an important set of rules. The first one we actually covered in one of the previous sessions, which is that a mudaf ilayhi can never be a mubtada or khabar. Now that we are covering naat, so naat is basically the same rule applies to naat as well. A naat can never be a mubtada or khabar when we see it in a nominal sentence. Okay, so let's look at some examples and see how we can use this rule to identify the mubtada and khabar. At-talibu mujtahidun, again one very simple example, nominal sentence. The first thing we do is to find the mubtada, which is the first marfu noun, which in this case is at-talibu. So we declare that as mubtada, the subject, and the next noun here is mujtahidun, which is a single word khabar. So we just identify this as a khabar. Okay, the translation being the student is hardworking. Now let's introduce a naat to it. At-talibul jadidu mujtahidun. Okay, so the first marfu noun is the mubtada, which still is at-talibu. Okay, al-jadidu is naat. Okay, and I will not get into the details of how to identify the naat. I think this is something that it's expected that if you're watching this video, you would have already known. So al-jadidu here is the naat for at-talibu. Okay, it's a naat for at-talibu. And now as soon as you find the naat, put an X on top of it just to mark that this cannot be a mubtada or a khabar. And then we come to the last word, which is mujtahidun. And mujtahidun is, as we had seen before, it is marfu and indefinite, good candidate for a khabar. Okay, so the translation becomes the new student is hardworking. Alright, let's look at another example. الطالب الجديد الذي خرج من الفصل الآن. So the first thing we do is to find the mubtada. The first marfu noun is الطالب. Okay, al-jadidu is naat. Okay, and then we put an X to indicate it's not a mubtada or a khabar. Then allazi. Allazi, as we know, is actually an ism mawsool. Al-ismul mawsool, a relative pronoun, which actually can have different purposes in a sentence. It can be naat, it can be mubtada, it can be khabar, but at this stage, when we are just introducing the nominal sentence, it is advisable to use it as a naat to make it simple for students to understand it, and that's what you will see. All the examples that we are going to use, this will come as a naat. We'll look at the other usages of this word as mubtada or khabar later on, inshallah. So this is also naat, and then we mark it as X to make sure to say that this is not a mubtada or khabar. Kharaja min al-fasli al-ana. That is actually a silatul mawsool, okay, which essentially means that it is connected with the ismul mawsool. Okay, and as a matter of fact, silatul mawsool actually can never play any role in the main sentence. Is basically the way you have to understand it is that you have this main word, which is in this case is allazi, okay, which is the leader, and then you have a clause which is a almost like a subscript to it. Okay, here it is kharaja minal fasli al ana. Okay, so this is your ismul mawsool, and this is your silatul mawsool. So this is really more of a subscript to it. And the silatul mawsul or subscript really has no standing in the main sentence. It's only the allazi, which stands as, think of it as a flag bearer or the leader for this whole clause, kharaja min al-fasli. Whatever the purpose or role is will be for the leader, will be identified with the leader, and silatul mawsul will really not play any role. So we'll put an X on top of it as well, saying it cannot be mubtada or khabar either. And that will be the case in every single sentence where you see silatul mawsul. And then we are left with only one word, which is mujtahidun, marfu, and indefinite, good candidate to be a khabar. So we mark it as khabar. So now if we translate it, الطالب الجديد الذي خرج من الفصل الآن مجتهد, and the new student who left from the class now is hardworking. Okay. So once again, remember, naat, when you find a naat, just make it cross it out, indicating that it can be mubtada and khabar. And also when you find silatul mawsul, just cross it out, saying it cannot be mubtada and khabar either. Alright, the last example we have is fil baytil kabiri hadiqatun jamilatun. First we find the mubtada, the first marfu noun. Hadiqatun is the first noun in the sentence, which is marfu. Once we have found the mubtada, now let's look for khabar. Fi is harfu jar. Al-Bayti is ism majroor. Okay. And then Al-Kabiri here is a naat to Al-Bayt. Okay. And then we put a cross at the top. And then Jamilatun is actually also a naat to Hadiqatun. So we put a cross on top of it. So Hadiqatun is a mubtada. Al-Kabir is a naat, so cannot be khabar. Jamilatun is a naat, so cannot be khabar. So we are only left with fil bayti, and we know that there is a type of khabar which is jar majroor, shibu jumla. So we declare that this is jar majroor, and then shibu jumlatin khabar. Okay, and because khabar came early, we will basically qualify it as khabar muqaddam, and then mubtada came after khabar, so we will say it is muakhar. Okay, so again, knowing that naat cannot be mubtada and khabar will help us exclude all those words which are naat, and then leave us with the correct options to identify as mubtada and khabar. Anyway, so this was the session on how to identify the mubtada and khabar in a nominal sentence which has naat in it. The main rule to remember is that naat cannot be mubtada and khabar. Thanks for watching.